Welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Ordinary Marathoner podcast. My name is Scott. I'll be your host today. Got a great show for you today. Got another great guest. Going to bring him on in just a moment. As always, you can find this in the back episodes of our podcast at our website, ordinarymarathoner.com. You can also find us at the aggregators, places like Stitcher and TuneIn and iTunes, of course. If you like the show, hit that subscribe button. Never miss a new episode that way. You can also subscribe to us over at the YouTube channel now. Getting bigger and bigger every time I look at it. You guys are just, I gotta thank all you guys for going over there, hitting that subscribe button. We are up to 82. My daughter thinks I'm like the most popular guy around. Imagine how popular she'll think I am when I get to 100. What a nice round number that'll be. So help me out. Head on over to that YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. What else? We got our Facebook discussion group over on Facebook. Ordinary Marathoners, plural. Got to add yourself to that group. We'll put you through right away. Really an awesome group. You guys were so great during the Ordinary Marathon. Tomorrow morning I'm getting up. This podcast may not even be out. But tomorrow morning we're going over to see Samantha Watson, the head of the SAM Fund, and present her with a check from the Ordinary Marathon. You guys raised a bunch of money for us, and really I just gotta hand it all to you guys out there that participated in the Ordinary Marathon. Another success. I'm working on the video. It's taken me a little longer than I thought. I had just some technical issues with the way we can download pictures from Twitter. Last year I was just able to kind of just download them directly to my computer, and now I have to do this convoluted way. But we're getting there, guys. We're getting there, I promise. And we'll have the video out, I don't know, a couple weeks, I think. We'll see. I'm working on it. All right, I don't want to keep you guys waiting too long. Let's bring in our guest for today. He is an author. He's actually authored 3 books, but we're here to talk about his latest book. And he is an ultramarathoner himself from Minnesota. Ryan Chukuske. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Love having you here. So I do want to apologize because we've been talking about doing this for probably 3 months.
Oh yeah.
And
sure.
And you sent me a copy of the book, and I started reading it. And, I just got to tell you, I got a bunch, it wasn't, it was a good book. I wanted to pick it back up. I haven't been able to finish it. So I apologize for that, but I'm glad I got the chance to talk to you about it. Cause that's now it's like my Cliff Notes. It's my Chukuske notes. But before we jump into the book, I know that you're an ultra runner yourself. So I guess, why don't you give us some background on yourself and kind of like how you got into ultra running, and I mean, was it something that you've always wanted to do? Was it something that, that you found inspiration and you just decided this is what I want to do? Or was it kind of like a gradual, I ran a 5K, 10K marathon, how did this all start for you?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Yeah, that's a great question. So I was back in high school. Let's just go back 20 some odd years ago.
You don't have to date yourself here.
I was a sprinter. I was a 100, 200 meter relay runner, and and I'm a coach now too. I coach track and cross country, and I'm a coach for sprinters when I do track, and so that's what I did. But then after I got out of high school, you can't be a sprinter forever. That's just not going to happen. I mean, that just doesn't. But I did love running. And so just picking up running to pass the time. And I started running some 5Ks and then some half marathons and stuff. And then someone at one particular 5K I was running, someone asked if I had ever run an ultra marathon. It was a random question.
Yeah, for 5K, literally, right? I mean, it's like...
Yeah, I'm running this 5, and it was like this winter 5K. It was like a Santa Claus 5K, in Minnesota in December, which is cold. And we're all running, and this guy was like, "Hey, have you ever run an ultra?" And I'm like, "I don't even know what an ultra is." And he pointed me in the direction of a guy named Dean Carnassus.
Oh, he's been a guest on the show.
Carno, nice.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
a great guy, too.
Oh, such a super guy, and I've had the privilege of meeting him as well. So,
yeah.
But Carno was like, I picked up his books and stuff and started reading some of his stuff on Ultra Running Man and
Ultra Marathon Man, right? Is that the one? Because I got to tell you, man, I've read one of the few books I've read more than once, and I haven't read it in a long time, but it made me want to get up off my ass and run an ultra.
Oh God, yeah. Ultra Marathon Man was just like, that was the creme de la creme of like inspiration. And so once I read that, I was like, I gotta do this. I gotta get into this 50-mile, 100-mile kind of thing. And so that's what I did, and I just discovered that. And between that and running marathons, I just decided that these ultras, I want to just push my body. What can you do? What can the human body do? What can we get into, and what can we accomplish? So that's where it kind of all started.
So what was your first? I mean, so did you run a marathon before you ran an ultra, or was it just into ultras? It was a nice gradual.
No. Yeah, no, I ran a marathon first. I was actually running because I was doing 5Ks and 10Ks and stuff, and then my sister lives in Fargo, North Dakota.
Seen the movie?
Yeah, right. Yeah, nice. And they were doing there was a 5-mile race up there, and I went up there and I ran this 5-mile race, and I ended up taking third place in that race, which got me a free entry into the Fargo Marathon. For the following year. And
that's kind of like an evil gift, for a 5-mile race.
Yeah. So
that's
I never pictured myself running further than, like, the 5 miles was already further than I'd ever ran before. So then
you must have been like, gee, thanks. So, gee, here's your gift. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did this Fargo Marathon, and I finished it. I said, this is the stupidest thing I've ever done in my life, and I'm never going to do this again.
Until tomorrow.
3 weeks later,
right.
3 weeks later, I ran Grandma's Marathon in Duluth, Minnesota. So.
I've heard that. Is that like a series, the Grandma's Marathon, or is there just one? Because I've heard that before. Like, I've heard people say that's a great race.
It's a great race, but that day that I did it, it was 96 degrees with 90% humidity, which
that's a fun one.
Oh, that sucked.
Man, and yet you still came back for more.
Came back for more. Got hooked on marathons. Marathons were my big thing for a while there. But then, when I was running that random 5K during December of 2010.
So had you already read the Ultramarathon Man book? Have you, or?
No, I had not. And then that's when someone introduced me on this idea of this ultra marathon kind of thing. And then that's when I picked up on the idea of Carno. And,
right.
Got to reading his stuff, and I just became hooked on this idea of what can the human body be capable of.
Yeah, which is really that's a good theme of the book, and it's one of those things where, you kind of personalize it when you read it, and it's like it makes you want to do it. So when you decided to start doing ultras, did you wade in first, like a 50K, then a 50-miler? Because I mean, your book is BigFoot 200, so I'm assuming that you've run at least 200.
Yeah. So I started with a 50K. My very first 50K attempt ended up being a DNF, a do not finish.
I know it well.
Because Yeah, exactly. And I just had some muscle spasm kind of stuff. But then my next race was a 50-miler, which was the North Face Endurance Challenge out in near Madison, Wisconsin. And so I finished that one. So I finished the 50-miler, and it was that was an eye-opener kind of thing. I was like, geez, this was amazing. And so then I heard about these 100-milers. And so went out to the Lean Horse 100, which is out in the Black Hills area of South Dakota, and took on that. And I ended up DNFing at mile 68, thinking, well, you know what, 68 miles, that was good enough for me.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. But then all of a sudden they decided to do this 100-miler real close to my home here, just 10 miles from where I live the next year. So you
couldn't say no, huh?
Couldn't say no. And I ended up winning that 100.
Wow. Were you the only one that ran? Be honest.
No.
It's like I came in first and last.
There was about 200 runners.
Wow, man. That's impressive. That's impressive.
Yeah.
I'm just joking around with you, but I mean, that's wow. So I mean, you said you came in third before, so you're used to the podium.
I've got, yeah, I guess, but you don't want to get too used to it because these races are humbling.
Oh, they are. I'm sure.
But yeah, then Candace decided to do these 200 milers, and I don't know, something just really appealed to me.
I mean, it's, what's funny about that is like, you almost, when you think of it, when you kind of like sit back and like just someone like me who I've never done an ultra, but I sit there and I look at guys like you and think it's like you take these baby steps, like 50K to 50. They sound like baby steps, but they're not 50, right? But it's like you're almost doubling the marathon distance to get to 50 miles. And then you double that again to 100. And then you double it again to get to 200. And it just sounds like a natural progression. But man, like going from 100 to 200 miles most people can't fathom going 100. And to add another 100 on top of that is just, I don't know. I feel like the number, it's kind of like lost in the number because we just go 100, 200. It sounds like the next thing, but that's a lot of miles.
It's a lot of miles.
So if Dean was part of your motivation or inspiration, let's say, was he also part of your inspiration to write? How did you get into the writing?
Oh, so my writing actually came from Dick Beardsley. Are you familiar with Dick Beardsley at all?
I've heard the name. I couldn't tell you what he's done.
Okay, so Dick Beardsley he's a Minnesota guy who was the part of the huge Boston Marathon, Dick Beardsley versus Alberto Salazar back in 1982, Race in the Sun kind of thing. And so I was reading his books because he's a big Minnesota guy. And so that's what got me into the writing. Plus, when I started my undergrad program, I was going to be a creative writer. That was what my major was. I decided that there wasn't going to be much future in that, but I still liked writing quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I got into whatever else I'm doing now. But no, writing is just something I always wanted to do. And then so when Carno started writing books, and then Scott Jurek, when he started writing books, and just when these big guys kind of, these big names started writing books on stuff, I kind of decided, you know what, there might be a market in book writing for a guy who's not your big name. I'm not your Olympic
Hey man,
runner.
you're a podium. You're a podium guy.
Yeah, but for small races,
Don't cut yourself. I know. I got you.
I hear you, man. Thank you for that.
I don't want you to sell yourself short here.
Yeah, I know. But I hear you. But I'm not your Olympic marathoner. I'm not your winning these massive runs. I'm not your Killian Jornes, and I'm not these guys. But I'm your everyday runner, and you know what? Let's tell our story.
Yep, you fit in right here. You fit in here well. Let's just call it that. You fit in here well, definitely. So now your first book. So I know you've written two before the one that's come out recently. 100 Miles of Thought and Darkness: A Runner's Revenge. That sounds ominous. Why don't you give me so before we get into the BigFoot book, why don't you give me a little bit of the background on the first two?
Yeah, so the first book. So when I decided to run my first 100-mile race, that's when I first decided that I would wanted to write a book. Like I knew I wanted to write a book prior to that. I was actually looking at writing like a fiction book about a runner. Let's just tell some fictionist story about some random runner. But then I decided, no, let's make this like an autobiography. So I decided for my first 100-mile race, I would do this mile by mile account of what it takes to run a 100-mile race. So that's where the 100 Miles of Thought came from. And I dropped out. Yeah. And so then I ended up DNFing at mile 68. And then, so once I DNF'd, I said to my now wife, she was my girlfriend at the time, but my now wife, I said, what am I supposed to do about this book? I was going to do 100 Miles of Thought, but I only have 68 miles of it. And that's where the Finding Success Through Failure subtitle came from. Gotcha. She said, still write the book. Just write it about just running 68 miles, because that's where I dropped out after 68 miles. Just write it about that and what it takes to do that and what it took to find the courage to actually drop out and finding success through running farther than you've ever ran before.
I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah, I said that's brilliant. So that's where that came from. And then I didn't have many plans on running another 100-miler race after that. Just kind of said I would stick to marathons and maybe some 50-milers. But then this 100-mile race came up in Savage, Minnesota, which is only a few miles from where I live. And it came, and my wife said, you know what, why don't you go run this 100-miler? It's only a few miles from our house. If you don't finish it, you don't have like 10 hours to travel back home. And so I signed up for it, and I trained kind of harder and smarter for it, as I said, and took my time and ended up winning the thing. Yeah. So that's where the revenge of the runner comes from.
So it's a part 2. It's a sequel.
Yeah, it's a sequel. Yeah, and it actually picks up. It tells kind of a backstory of the things that's kind of a journal of my training from when I decided to run it up to the race. And then I picked up because 100 Miles of Thought left off on mile 68. I picked up on mile 69 in the new, yep. All right. And then just talked about what it took to run those last 32 miles.
Yeah. So it was that, how did you feel when you crossed the finish line there? I mean, that must have been like, after stopping at 68 and thinking like, this was crazy, I ain't doing this ever again. And then all of a sudden now, new race pops up, you jump in and then you finish it. How did you feel? When did you know you had it? When did you, and how did you feel once you were like, yeah, I conquered this? I mean, that sounds, the whole theme of finding success through failure and then being able to write that sequel and being able to finish the 100 miles. How did that transition? How did it all feel?
It all felt really just kind of surreal, because at mile 68, 69 is when I knew I was in first place. That's when I took over and then just kept going, and I called it the new starting line, because now I knew I was in first place, and I'm like, holy cow, what am I going to do with this, and how can I hold on to this? And then I remember it was like, gosh, I had headphones in, but I don't listen to music like when I'm running, but I have headphones in. But I remember like I came around to like mile 84, and that was at the start, because there's a loop. It's a 16-mile kind of loop, 17-mile kind of loop. And I came in to the start-finish area, and my wife, she was working that aid station, and there was a dude that like changed my socks for me because they were soaking wet.
Yeah.
And that's when I knew, like, I had first place, and we knew, because people were communicating with each other, that I was still like about a good 2 miles ahead of the person behind me.
Right. What's funny is, like, if you were like in a marathon and you have a 2 mile lead, it's like you got that thing sewn up. But with all these miles left to go, I mean, how confident are you at that point?
Exactly. You're not that confident, because this other guy had the lead for like 60 some miles, so. And then like I got to like mile like 97, I remember, and there was a dude who said like, you're going to break 18 hours. And I said, maybe. I got 3 miles to go. And he's like, just get going, and you can do it. And I just didn't want to do it. I was so hurt. I was feeling terrible. I'm like, my legs are sore, my mind is sore, everything is sore. And so one thing, because I said I had my phone, like because most of these races you're required to carry your phone. Okay.
That makes sense.
Yep, you're required to carry some kind of communication device so that you can, if something happens, you can, And I remember at mile 98, I called my dad.
Yeah.
And my dad answered, and I was like, Dad, I'm running this 100-mile race, and I'm about to finish, and I don't, I'm like, I don't know what's happening. I'm winning right now. And he was like, what are you doing talking to me? Shut up. He's like, shut up, hang up the phone, and go finish this race.
That's what dads are for, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I did. And so like the rest was history. I just took off, and there it was.
And so crossing that finish line, what's, and I got to tell you, like, here you are, you're battling to finish a race that you DNF'd the last time you attempted, and now you find yourself in first place. I would think 18 hours is the last thing on my mind.
The last thing on my mind. It didn't matter. Nothing else mattered.
It just finish one, and maybe, hey, win. If you're in first, you might as well go for the win. But man, that's a great story. That's So after that day, so like, all right, so I mean, I don't know. Did we answer that question though? Like when you cross the line, right? I'm assuming your wife is right there.
She was right there, yeah.
And you got first place sewn up. You cross that line. What's the feeling then? What is the feeling as soon as you see it and you're coming in and bang, there you are. Not only did you accomplish what you set out to accomplish, that you DNF'd a few months back, but you won.
So I had this water bottle in my hand and I spiked it down like a football. I remember that very vividly. And there's some pictures of me too. And I was so hot. I was so warm. That all I did, because it was about 60 degrees at that time, and I laid down, I flopped down on the ground, and all I wanted to do was cool my body down. I was so warm, and everyone thought I was hurt. So all these people came running up, and they're like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I said, "Yes, I'm okay. I need a minute to like slow down, and I need a minute to just cool my body temperature down." And that's what I did. I laid there for about 5 minutes. And then I got up and
best 5 minutes ever, probably.
Yeah.
Nice.
And the world stopped spinning after that.
There you go. That's an awesome story, man. That's an awesome story. So, and then you wrote about it, and then you got to write about it, which is that's incredible. And then, all right. So how much time between that second book and that second 100, or that your second attempt when you won this 100, until you decided to do BigFoot 200?
That was 3 years.
All right. A lot of time there.
3 years went by. Yeah. Well, these 200s didn't exist at the time.
Oh, okay.
They weren't in existence at all. So,
because who would be crazy enough to do 200?
Who would be? Wow, exactly. Like nobody was crazy enough to do 200. And then Candace Burt came to light, and she said, "You know what? I'm gonna put on these 200-mile races." So
crazy.
Yeah.
But good crazy, man. Good crazy. So did you know, so I'm guessing this BigFoot 200 you did personally.
Yeah.
And then you also wrote about some other people that were doing it as well. So why don't you frame for my listeners? Cause like I said, I started reading it like 3 months ago and, I was in it. I liked it. And I just, 6-month-old baby. It's driving me nuts. And, I will get back to it. So why don't you give me sort of give me the books, like give me the general feeling of the book, cause I'm assuming that you're kind of attaching the race to the book. So how did you approach that? Why don't you kind of cover both your own personal, experience with the race and then how the book relates to that?
Yeah. So so my first two books, I'm going to start with my first two books were only entirely about my race. Yep. Like, 100 Miles of Thought was my first attempt at the 100 miler. And then, Into the Darkness, Revenge of the Runner was about my second attempt at a 100 miler. And so it was just about me. But then what happened was I actually got really big into Game of Thrones. Did you watch Game of
Not season 8. Not season 8.
You haven't watched season 8?
I know I'm watching it. I'm a broken man because of season 8.
No spoilers. I'm not going to.
All right. I don't want to know.
but I got really big into Game of Thrones and I read the books and then started reading it. And so like one thing that dawned on me was like, there's lots of books out there. From runners, especially because my first two books. They were good to me, and they were good to my family. They're like, "Oh, we love your book, Ryan," but they weren't like the best sellers in the world. And
it's hard.
It's hard.
It's hard.
Yeah, it's hard. And so, like, but I really love writing. I really love telling a story. And I'm not sitting here saying like I want like a New York Times bestseller, but what I want to get the word out on some like really good stuff. So I just had some like deep conversations with myself, with my wife, with my, with just different people, my friends and stuff who have read my other books. And I said, what can I do differently in this next book that would like make a difference? And the idea came up that let's tell a story that's not just you, but tell a story about other people. And so the Bigfoot 200 book became kind of a Game of Thrones, because that's what came up, is like, let's tell like everybody's perspective as we move along in this narrative. It's not just like, here's one person's race, but let's tell lots of people's perspective, not just the runners, but the pacers and the crew and the people who support the race. Let's tell their story, and let's put that together in this sort of Game of Thrones narrative where it goes from one person to another as we navigate through the story. And when I threw that out there and pitched that to some people, like I got a huge response from like tons of people, like, yes, I want to be part of this. I want to be part of this. So the original narrative of the book was over 700 pages long.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow. How long did that take you to write? My God.
I know. And so once the race was done, my original idea was that I would get the book out within a couple of months, but it took almost a year to get the book out because
you had to cut that thing in half.
I had to cut it in half. And then, but what happened was this brilliant thing is that I actually ended up picking up a publisher, Kohler Books.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, picked it up, and they're just like, dude, this is going to be a huge thing. I want to work with you. Let's publish this book officially instead of self-publishing, which has been a godsend because they do so much work. They do all the editing and everything else, and then they cut it down to about I think it's like a 270-page book now, which is great because, like I said, I had like a 700-page book.
Yeah.
They got it down, and so, but no, it's this wonderful narrative of just like these 6 individuals who all. So I've got everything from people who drop out of the race to the 2 male and female winners of the race are all involved in the book.
Gotcha. So how the book came out earlier this year? Is that right?
December 15th of 2018. Yeah, so just a few months ago. Yeah.
Gotcha. So and it's so if you go on to Amazon, like I know it's you can get it for Kindle and like the digital version, but is it like a hardcover paperback too?
Hardcover, paperback, Kindle. Yep. Any version of it that you want, you can get. Yep.
Gotcha. I should have. This is my own fault for delaying this interview, but we could have definitely grabbed a copy of that as a prize for our virtual race that we just did like couple weeks ago. My bad. See, this is like, one of the things that publishers do, and I'm sure you appreciate this, is they help you with the marketing. Because I feel like when self-publishing, it's so hard. Especially you got a real life, you're training for ultra marathons, you're writing yourself, you're writing this stuff. How do you have time to market all that stuff on top of everything that you're doing? So the publisher helps you probably immensely with that. And is that what you found?
Yeah, because we ended up right after it got published, because it was published in December 15th of 2018. Right away, ESPN actually featured the book as last minute gifts for Christmas.
Oh, awesome! That helped you out a lot, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, it was huge. Yep, that was huge. So that was all the publisher. I never would have, as a self publisher, you never would have had those connections.
Yeah, you could never do that.
But as getting published, that was like a huge thing. That's been the biggest thing. You sacrifice, of course, royalties.
Sure.
But I would rather, I don't care about that. I care more about spreading the message, spreading the book, getting it out there. You know what I mean? Like royalties don't mean as much to me as people reading the book and like, hey man, this is some crazy shit you should do.
Let me ask you this: have you gotten any feedback from the book? Like, have you gotten any stories of like, oh my God, I just read your book, and I went and bought a pair of sneakers. You have any of that kind of stuff going on?
Yeah, Amazon reviews. I would, if you read the book, anyone listening to this right now, read the book. put an Amazon review out there. My Amazon review is, yep, that's where that comes from. Yep, absolutely. I'm a 5-star Amazon review. People are saying, I read this. This is amazing. I went out and did this. This is great.
Now, for me, like and I get that from the podcast every once in a while. Like, oh, I listened to a podcast and I went out and started running. For me, like that's the greatest feeling. I mean, just that something that you did or you wrote, for something that you wrote can motivate someone to do something that they haven't tried before. And I'm kind of interested to see if anyone makes it, not necessarily maybe to a 200 mile race, but to a 50K, to a 50 miler. I mean, it's the kind of thing that, if you write it and people start picking it up like that's the kind of stuff that can happen. And I feel like, that's like the ultimate. You're right. No, like royalties. If you get one person to tell you that they rolled off the couch and bought a pair of sneakers because they read your book, I think that's the prize. That's the prize.
That is the prize. And, my whole my brand and everything, and my website, ryanchukuske.com, and I sell, my brand is Journey On My Friends. And I talk about the why the F not. That's like my big brand. And it's because, you know what, if you want to get out there, you want to do something, why the F not? Just do it. Just do something that makes you happy. Do something that motivates you to just make the best of life, because that's what it's all about.
I hear you, man. So are you like doing like a book tour? What's the deal? Like what where? Let me ask you this. Yeah. Let's ask you if I'm a fan and I want to either meet you or get a copy of the book or whatever. Where can I reach you? Where can I find you? Twitter, all that kind of good stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I'm on everything, all social media accounts. So let's go with that. I'm on Facebook at Ryan Chukuske. I'm on Twitter at Chukuske. I'm at Instagram at Chukuske. I'm on a book tour right now. I'm going all over the country. I'm everywhere. RyanChukuske.com. You can keep up with all my my tours. I'm all over the country doing a book tour right now. I've got all kinds of gear and whatever, paraphernalia, whatever you want to call it. I've got t-shirts and trucker hats and books, all for sale. Amazon.com. You can get all my books. Leave a review if you like it. That's my big thing there. But
those reviews are important. And it's funny because I think, a lot of times, I know as a consumer, and like sometimes I hear leave a review and I'm like, all right, but I know because I got to do it for the podcast. It's like they matter. You know what I mean? They matter.
They do.
So sometimes, like for me, I'm like, oh, I got to ask people for reviews, but it's important. And so if you read the book and you enjoy it, definitely leave a review. Click the 5-star too. Don't be stingy.
Don't be stingy. Now you're East Coast, right? You're out in Massachusetts.
I am. Are you going to be out here at all?
Send me some. So what I'm doing right now is I'm doing what's called a books, brews, and mostly bullshit tour. And so I'm hitting up a lot of breweries, and so I'm all over the country right now doing that. I do not have any East Coast places yet.
Nice. We have a brewery around here, and the name is escaping me, but it's like one of the top. What is the name? It's driving me nuts. Like you have to go there and wait on this long line. And you may not even get beer that day. It's like they sell out Treehouse Brewing. I don't know if you ever
Treehouse.
Heard. Yeah.
Wow.
Treehouse.
No,
it's like, write that down. But it's the only thing is Western Mass, and you may not want to go to Western Mass. There's, we got a good running community. I'll say that. But, you might want to be more towards the city of Boston, I think, for something like that, just to attract more people. But, if you feel like coming out east, we go to New York a lot. We go to Boston. I'm actually heading to Boston tomorrow. But yeah, I'd be interested in meeting you and seeing what we could do. Maybe run a few miles, have a few beers.
Yeah, that would be fine. I mean, that's exactly what I'm doing with this whole tour, and the tour has been really great so far. I started it back in what month is it now? May. Geez, I started back in March, and it's been so great. I'll be everywhere. I'm in Colorado. I'm in California. I'm in Washington, Utah. I'm in Indianapolis. I'm going at Michigan. I'm everywhere.
Wow,
so.
that's a lot of travel.
Yeah, it's a lot of travel, and these breweries have been really great getting me out there. But it's been fun, and I know my publisher has been super happy about it. So, but no, it's a good angle because I'm a big craft beer guy.
Yeah,
and so it's mixing this with the tour. It's like I get out there and I can do stuff. It's been fun.
Nice, man. Well, I'm glad you enjoy yourself. Glad glad you're it's hard sometimes to write books. I actually know a little from personal experience. I wrote a few books years ago and self-published, and it is a monster of a task to put on your shoulders. Yeah. And I can congratulate you on the book. It's funny. I feel like when people who haven't written a book, and I feel like almost everyone should. If you have any kind of talent whatsoever at doing it at all, just write it. It's just an experience that I feel like everyone should just try. And I give it to you, man. So congratulations on the book. I know it's your third, so I mean, this is all old hat for you, but,
no, third, but the best.
There you go. There you go.
Yep. Yep.
And again, you can pick it up on Amazon. It's called BigFoot 200. What was the subtitle again?
Because why the F not? Yeah.
So what about running? You got any more races on your calendar here going forward, or what?
Yeah, a couple weeks from now, I'll be out in the Madison, Wisconsin area doing the Kettle Moraine 100, and then in August I'll be back out at BigFoot doing the BigFoot 200.
Wow! So you do a lot. You do a lot of these then. How many a year?
Oh, yeah. Oh, multiple. But here's the thing. I'll be doing BigFoot 200 in August, 4 weeks later doing the Tahoe 200, and then 4 weeks later doing the MOAB.
I'm sorry.
Crown of 200.
Give me that last one again. We cut out a little bit on the sound.
Sorry. MOAB 200.
Wow, you're doing
MOAB.
Dude, that's insane.
Yeah.
Are you writing a book on this?
I will likely do a book on that. Yeah.
So we had an old guest of ours that comes on often, Ramon Burmo, who works for the Determination team, which is linked to American Cancer Society. He ran not consecutively like you did, but he ran MOAB, he ran Tahoe 200. So I have a flavor for those races just from interviewing him, and to do them in the same year sounds incredible. And then throw in the BigFoot on top. Oh my God.
Yep, Triple Crown.
God bless you. So let me ask you this then. So how do you train for this thing? You are out at the brewery. You're going to like 9 breweries in 20 different states.
You run
from state to state, from brewery to brewery.
Just run. Yeah. Now I get in there early enough. I run and let's just go there, drink some beer.
God bless you, man. This is. I wish you the best of luck, dude. Let's do this. Let's have you back on. I probably sometime within those 3 races, let's get you back on and let's see how you're doing and get you, and figure this out. I'd love Did you talk to a therapist before you signed up for these 3 races?
I'm a therapist by trade. So it's what I do for a living.
Oh man. Did you talk to yourself before you? Awesome. Anyway, so listen, thanks so much for coming on, Ryan. Again, find those books over on Amazon. You can find Ryan all over social media. Really appreciate your time.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Awesome. And, we're still doing our Ordinary Daily podcast here. Our next guest will probably be, I think we're having Mary Countryman on. She doesn't even know this because I haven't asked her on yet, but she's going to come on because I'm going to make her. She won, we did the Ordinary Marathon, which is our virtual race, and she won a prize she won 3 months of free coaching. So she had never had a coach before. So we want to kind of talk to her about the experience of having a coach and what it did for her and if she improved over that time. So, hopefully we're going to have her on and then, and we'll see from there. With that, I guess we'll see you all next time, guys. Remember, I can't even remember my own tagline. When it comes to running, I'm no expert. I'm just ordinary.